Ladies and gentlemen, here we are today. Top 10 most boring WWE wrestlers of all time by What Culture. Now, I haven't done a What Culture rant type video pretty much this year. I believe I did one in January, but that's been it. I haven't done one in about 8 months. So this one, it's been fairly anticipated, you could say. I had a lot of you guys on Twitter demand I do this. A lot of you guys want to see me yell about this list. Just for some context, legitimately the only person I know on this list is Randy Orton. I know Randy Orton is number one on this list. I'll give my thoughts on that in a moment, or later on. But yeah, I don't know about the rest of this list. I'm going to go through it, just like most of you guys. I'm going to go through it now, give my live, brutally honest reactions, and hopefully make you guys, I guess, entertained. So, that being said, here we go. 10 most boring WWE wrestlers of all time. Now, if you remember, earlier this year, I did 10 most boring WWE wrestlers of 2020. That one, from memory, they had R-Truth really high up, and it was just a terrible list. This one, 10 most boring of all time, even more subjective, okay? So let's get into it. It's by Michael Hamflett. The guy, based on how bad this list will probably be, doesn't deserve publicity or notoriety, so yeah. That said, let's get into it. So, here we have a bit of a read-through, saying it's particularly cruel criticism, and it's a particularly cruel subject for an article, talking about industry promoters. Here he goes. Wrestling should view us, its fans and chief consumer, now more than ever, as too good to be served wrestlers that can kill entire promotions. It didn't when this lot walked the aisle. Can I just say with this, the wording of this right off the bat comes off so pompous, bro. So pompous, so arrogant, so just know-it-all, nonchalant. Just listen to this. Wrestling should view us, its fans and consumers, now more than ever, as too good to be served wrestlers that can kill entire promotions. This is essentially saying, nowadays in 2021, us, real fans, spend all day online reading dirt sheets and tweeting about wrestling, as opposed to back in the early days in the 90s and the early 2000s, when all we could do is sit on the dirt sheets for a couple of hours a day. Now, we know more than ever, okay? We deserve better. You can already tell with the tone. All these What Culture articles have the same general tone, general premise. Quote unquote, we know the biz. We watch 94 hours a week of real wrestling. You can just see that. You can sense it in the early tone of this article. So, that said, we move in. Number 10, Jinder Mahal. Okay. WWE could have strapped anybody from the mid-card in the same bizarrely random manner they did in Jinder in 2017. But the cynical... just the wording of this, bro. Jesus Christ. Literally, let's sum up the Jinder Mahal one. Is Jinder Mahal objectively really entertaining? No. But right away, they're pulling the whole, they could have given any mid-card guy the belt. Well, no. The whole point with Jinder was that Vince McMahon and the powers that be in WWE knew Jinder Mahal, an Indian superstar, would make bulk money in India if you give him the belt. It's a bit of a profit and loss thing. If you give... Who's some random Joe Schmo bum from 2017? If you give Mojo Rawley the WWE Championship, are you going to be getting video clips with 50 million views in India? Are you going to be making bulk cash profit in India? No. Anyway, we move. Jinder Mahal's number 10. Not really much to say. Who honestly cares? So, that's Jinder Mahal at number 10. Then, we move into number 9 on this list. Shane Douglas. Once again, fair enough. Who honestly cares, dude? The franchise had shocked the wrestling world in 1994 thanks to the transcendent moment he threw the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship in order to formally relaunch ECW as much more than a noisy neighbor in Philadelphia. Yada, yada, yada. We've got Shane Douglas, number 9. Cool. Great for him. So that's number 9. We move into number 8 now. Alberto Del Rio. I agree. I think Del Rio should be higher. This guy was pushed as legitimately the top guy during the summer of Punk. And what did Alberto Del Rio do? What did Del Rio contribute? He came out in a car worth $100,000, slapping his arm, and having Ricardo Rodriguez, his personal assistant, slapping a bucket. Thrilling. So, here's the write-up for Del Rio. Del Rio had a theoretically marketable face before the whole world would grow to see something much darker behind that $1 million smile. But what really happened bell to bell that made the rest of his run seem so appealing? Bursting through in the dry developmental desert that was the early 2010s, the dry developmental desert. The same dry developmental desert that produced Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and all these Big E and whatever. Anyway, we move. Yeah, Del Rio, I kind of agree. I can't hate on Del Rio being on this list. Next, Ted DiBiase Jr. I mean, so far, I can't really pot this list too much. I mean, Ted DiBiase was a charisma vacuum, bro. Like, literally, he made a wet paper bag seem like Dwayne Johnson, so I can't really pot this one too much. Second generation wrestlers have always got comparisons overcome alongside trying to prove themselves, blah, blah, blah. Doors get open in wrestling if you grew up in or near the industry, and even in 2021, there's enough evidence out there to remind audiences that nepotism is going nowhere. I love just the anti-hierarchy, anti-establishment wording of these articles, dude. It's so good. So good. DiBiase was badly booked by the can't-be-effed energy of the product at the time, but failed to remotely wrestle through the fog of asked, blah, blah, blah. You guys don't care. DiBiase's 7, we move. So, that's 7. 6, Dino Bravo. This one's going back, a little generation or two. Dino Bravo, his character was that he was strong, as was the case of a lot of guys in that time period. The thing with Dino, from everything I've seen and everything I've read about him, wasn't exactly a charisma vacuum. He wasn't one of these guys who'd get on camera with Mean Gene and scream. So, yeah, by default, I guess he's boring. So that's Dino Bravo. Then number 5, the Bolsheviks. I mean, fair enough. Like this is the thing with the people so far. It's objectively hard to argue so far. Now, granted, it could get a lot worse, but so far, Bolsheviks, who bloody cares? The bloody Bolsheviks. I mean, honestly, here we go. Number 10. Oh, sorry. This article's drew me off the wall already. Number 4, Triple H. Okay. He just had no right. Triple H had no effing right to the pro wrestling period between 2002 and 2005. And some would argue much, much longer. But he walked, talked, and acted just enough like a guy that was untouchable at the top, and sure enough, the reality is manifested. The games, MSG returned, blah, 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 was an old-timer. The one saving grace is that it never need exist again. Anybody that lived through certainly won't waste any time reliving it through the Peacock archives. And if you're fortunate enough to miss it, consider this your horror movie warning. Don't go in there. Oh my god. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. This is someone, the anti-reign of, quote-unquote, reign of terror. This is someone who, Triple H buried everybody, okay? Objectively speaking, the only person Triple H buried was Booker T. Now, as far as the reign of terror itself, was it some great, amazing run with Triple H coming out with Evolution, cutting 20-minute promos every week in the middle of the ring? Was that amazing, show-stopping, your heart's racing TV? It really wasn't. Most weeks, it wasn't, okay? Personally speaking, to say Triple H is the 4th most boring wrestler of all time, I find that kind of gross. I really do. I think the fact that Triple H is put in this position, when you have guys in your company's history, like, we've mentioned before, Ted DiBiase, like, Jack Swagger, like Alberto Del Rio, like the Bolsheviks, like all these type of guys, like these good wrestlers nowadays, like your Ricochets, or the Humberto Carrillos, guys who literally could not cut a good promo if their life was depending on it. Guys like that, stuff them. Triple H with his game promos, with his feud with Dave Bautista, with everything the game Triple H has done over the years, with D-Generation X, with Shawn Michaels. This is the same Triple H who was literally in the Attitude Era doing promos with Shawn Michaels, crotch chopping, pointing at random women in the crowd, and these females would literally show their assets, all this kind of stuff. Triple H thrived in the Attitude Era. An era that was bred upon entertainment, an era that was bred upon not being boring. This is the same Triple H who cussed out Jim Ross in a live interview on TV and got ratings. Okay, you look at the body of work of Triple H. Was 02 to 05 objectively some incredibly entertaining time period? Every week, you were desperate to hear every word he'd say? No. Most weeks it wouldn't be, but the fact of the matter is, calling Triple H the 4th most boring wrestler of all time, when you consider his body of work, when you consider all the different super entertaining segments he's done, all the different ways he's entertained us over the years, from the Yes Movement Authority storyline, where he put over your favorite wrestler, What Culture, Daniel Bryan, the storyline with your indie darling Tyler Black in 2017 and the build-up to WrestleMania 33, all this kind of stuff. He's put over the indie darlings. He's put over Cena, Batista in entertaining feuds, entertaining entrances. Okay, you sit in the front row of WrestleMania and you watch Triple H come down with 18 motorbikes dressed as the Terminator and Stephanie McMahon wearing stuff all. You tell me that's a boring wrestler. So Triple H at number 4. What a joke. That's number 4. That's Triple H. Then we move on. Number 3, IRS. I mean, is IRS the third most boring wrestler of all time? Was IRS more boring than Ted DiBiase, Alberto Del Rio, Mason Ryan, Tyler Rex, all these random bums? Like, why is IRS so objectively boring? For having storylines involving money? Like, let's read the quote here. What Culture's own Michael Sidgwick nailed the physical description of IRS running the ropes so succinctly recently that he managed to land on the precise problem in everything about the way he worked. Treat yourself to an IRS match on the network, or if you can find him in Season 4 of SummerSlam, or however they rephrase it, he leans in so forcefully that the ropes dip lower than normal, and is all armpit. This mimics impeccably the iconic and subsequently overstated moment Derek Trotter fell through an oak. But what is this crap, bro? Just, like, can you just get to the point and say you don't like IRS, you find him boring? The way they just spin this crap, the way they drum up these just bogus little pieces of storytelling to try and build up these arguments, it's just so desperate. It's just grasping little straws. What Culture's own Michael Sidgwick, aka the guy on Twitter who gets on his high horse and says that everything WWE does is bad. That Michael Sidgwick. The one who cries at people's 11 followers on Twitter because they disagree with him. What Culture's own Michael Sidgwick. Fantastic guy to quote What Culture. Love that. So that's IRS number 3. Was IRS an objectively entertaining, fantastic, mainstream charisma machine like Dwayne Johnson? God, no. But is he the third most boring wrestler of all time? I mean, come on, dude. You can't say he's more boring than Ted DiBiase, Jack Swagger, or a bunch of these guys in the modern day. So, yeah, that's IRS. Number 2, Vladimir Kozlov. I mean, he definitely deserves to be on this list. I mean, it's bloody Vladimir Kozlov, bro. I mean, what's that of Vladimir Kozlov? Seriously. The Vladimir push was like many other WWE monster pushes in that he was a lumbering foreign menace, and there was an expectation that enough squashes would get him over as a main event star. Where it fell away, way short of blah blah blah. At no point was Kozlov interesting during his ascent, making the inevitable pay-per-view match of Triple H on the most boring in company history. Survivor Series had at least built up. Who gives a stuff? It's Vladimir Kozlov at 2. He deserves to be on the list. Am I going to argue with the placings at this point? I feel like I shouldn't, but I'm this balls deep in this god-awful article. I might as well. Him being at 2, dodge. I'd put him at like 4 or 5, but who honestly cares? And number 1's going to be Randy Orton. Do I feel Randy Orton's the most boring wrestler of all time? I think saying Randy Orton's the most boring wrestler, but having guys like, as we've just mentioned, Ted DiBiase, Vladimir Kozlov, having Jack Swagger not on this list. Where's Jack Swagger? Where is he? His character was that he's American. What about Shorty G, Chad Gable? His character is that he wrestles. What about, I don't know, when FTR were in the WWE, the Revival, their character was that they were doctors in examining Big E's balls. Or was that Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson? How about them? Gallows and Anderson. Their character was that they had none. They stood next to AJ Styles, and AJ Styles said, "We're the club." Riveting. What was Adrian Neville's character? Neville's character was that gravity forgot me. And then he proceeded to hit one move, and if he didn't hit the move, he'd lose the match. Like, you look at all these guys, especially in this really 2010 and on period, you look at all these guys who have legitimately contributed no value to WWE. All these people who WWE have just strapped a rocket to and tried to make seem like stars. It's ridiculous to see, dude. And you've got Randy Orton at number 1. Now, is Randy Orton some objectively, amazingly entertaining guy? No. Am I a fan of Randy Orton? Not really. I think Randy Orton, when he's world champion for longer than 3 weeks, I think the quality of Raw goes down immensely. But you can't tell me that Randy Orton, a guy who literally carried WWE in 2020, alongside Edge, Roman Reigns, Bayley and Sasha Banks, and Drew McIntyre, that Randy Orton, who's out there punt-kicking legends, having a great feud with Edge, a feud that carried Monday Night Raw for legitimately half the year, that Randy Orton, the same Randy Orton, who on his day is probably one of the best storytellers in wrestling, if not the best storyteller in wrestling, that Randy Orton is the most boring wrestler of all time. But yet, all the guys I've just named, and plenty more, like, you want to get nitpicky with this. How is someone like Sheamus, a guy whose character is that he's from Ireland, slaps his chest, and then his chest goes purple because he's so pasty, that guy is apparently not on this list, but Randy Orton is. Randy Orton is number 1. What makes Randy Orton and Sheamus so different? Sheamus screams fella and slaps his breasts. Randy Orton humps the floor and RKOs people. At least Randy Orton has something that's known about him. The RKO out of nowhere, the punt kick, the legend killer, all these great matches, these promos he's cut over the years. Stupid. Like, come on. It's... Jesus Christ. Slandering Orton is, I guess, the flavor of this article. Slandering Triple H is the hater. Is the flavor of this article. I guess it goes along with the fact that Evolution, those guys were successful. Randy Orton, Triple H, Batista. I don't want to name Ric Flair at the moment because he's a victim of cancel culture. All these guys were successful and they didn't have to base their whole game on knowing 500 moves, 450 of which hardly even hurt that bad. Those guys who know all the moves, who What Culture love, who put on the great matches, who deserve better, who you need to hijack shows for, those guys aren't on this list because why would they? Because that doesn't fit the What Culture agenda, the What Culture bias. The What Culture agenda is guys who can cut promos, who can carry a 20-minute promo segment, guys who can carry matches with great storytelling, and storytelling based on not knowing as many moves, but executing a great story that makes you genuinely invested. Those guys, Randy Orton, Triple H, it's cool to hate them. Of course. They're super successful, and Randy Orton, as he said up until about 2020, he never really knew that many moves. He was never that confident on the mic. But Randy Orton is successful regardless of that. And the fact of the matter is, that many guys have been snubbed from this list, it's just ridiculous. So, that's going to be the video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. All in all, a lot of this list wasn't even too bad. I'll be objective with saying that. Randy Orton being number 1, Triple H being number 4. Real head scratches. If I was doing this list, I'd probably put Jack Swagger, Vladimir Kozlov. I've named a bunch of this video, but there's so many guys, especially in the last 8 years of the NXT kind of era, who just offer legitimately hardly anything. So that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, drill.